Have you ever had that feeling like you've completely lost yourself in a relationship, only to come out on the other side, well, stronger than you ever thought possible? Today, we're diving deep into that exact journey, the incredible awakening an empath goes through after a toxic relationship, and how they reclaim their true, authentic power. And to really get our heads around this, we're starting with this powerful idea from Carl Jung. Now, this isn't just some nice inspirational quote. You can think of it as the actual map for the journey we're about to explore, a path from losing yourself to, well, owning yourself completely. So, this whole idea of becoming who you truly are, it brings up a really fascinating question, right? What really truly happens when the kindest person you know finally puts themselves first? And look, the answer isn't about them becoming cold or selfish. Not at all. It's about a quiet internal revolution that turns some of the deepest pain into just unshakable strength. To really understand the transformation, we have to start at the beginning. We've got to look at that initial dynamic, where an empath's natural sensitivity is basically used to reflect and prop up a manipulator's very fragile ego. So in this first stage, the empath essentially becomes a living mirror. Your whole purpose, in their eyes, is to reflect back the perfect image the manipulator needs to see. And a lot of the time, that means dimming your own light just so their fragile illusion can shine a little brighter.
At its core, this whole thing is just a massive imbalance. See, narcissists need a constant source of validation. You've probably heard it called supply. And empaths are often conditioned to just give and give endlessly. It creates this one-way flow of energy, a dynamic built not on mutual respect, but on your self-sacrifice.
So, how does this incredibly imbalanced dynamic finally break? Well, it's not with some loud, dramatic explosion. It's actually a quiet revolution, a silent but absolutely seismic internal shift. It all begins right here with a simple internal decision. You just stop. You stop contorting yourself to fit their needs. You stop rewriting your own reality just to make room for their chaos. It's a moment of just profound clarity. And in that single instant, without a single word being said, the unwritten rules of the relationship are just permanently broken. The whole performance they've been directing for so long, it just lost its most important actor, you. And this right here is the crucial insight. See, anger is still a form of connection. It proves the manipulator still matters to you. But silence, not the silent treatment, but the silence of someone who has simply walked off the stage, wow. That is what completely dismantles their power. So where does that incredible, powerful silence even come from? Well, it's rooted in a really deep internal process. And this is where we come back to Jung and his whole concept of the shadow, the idea of confronting and integrating the parts of yourself you've been taught to push down. You know, Jung believed your shadow isn't something to be afraid of. For an empath, it's basically a treasure chest. It holds the very tools you need for self-preservation, the things you were probably conditioned to believe were selfish, your ability to set boundaries, your capacity to prioritize your own needs, and that unshakable power of saying no without feeling guilty. This whole journey to wholeness, it really happens in 3 stages. First, there's confrontation. You have to face those parts of yourself you've been hiding. Then, integration. You reclaim that unlived strength, like the power to just say no. And finally, you have this rebirth. You emerge not as a different person, but as the authentic, sovereign person you were always meant to be.
Now, after integrating the shadow, the empath doesn't lose their sensitivity. Oh no. Instead, they gain a whole new set of powerful tools for navigating the world with clarity and wisdom. This is like the key upgrade to your intuition. You don't become cold or closed off. You become incredibly selective. This earned wisdom means you start trusting that gut feeling, like 100%. You learn to read the energy behind what someone is doing, not just the words they're saying. And the internal shift is it's profound. The before state is one of constant reacting, of over-explaining yourself, of desperately needing someone else to say you're okay. But the after state, that's one of quiet certainty, an unshakable inner authority, and the power to just respond with stillness. And these are the real, tangible results of all that inner work. You actually start operating from a place of self-trust. You no longer feel that need to justify your boundaries or get approval from someone else for your choices. You just know your worth, and you act on it. Simple as that.
All right, so where does this entire journey lead? What's the end game? It leads to a state of being whole, integrated, and, well, essentially immune to all the old patterns of manipulation.
This leads you to the ultimate destination, psychological sovereignty. This is the point where you take complete ownership of your inner world. You become your own safe place. Your sense of self is no longer up for debate, which makes you basically immune to tactics like guilt tripping or love bombing.
The old tactics, they just don't work on you anymore. And it's not because you're bitter. It's because you've seen behind the curtain. You recognize the patterns and you simply refuse to participate in the drama.
This is all about becoming psychologically whole. You realize you no longer need anything from other people, not validation, not approval, not a sense of purpose, that you can't first give to yourself. Your own company becomes a true sanctuary.
And your scars, they're no longer signs of damage. They are evidence of survival, and they become the very foundation of your new strength. You've walked through the fire, and you've emerged not just healed, but totally forged. And this brings us to what is maybe the most important realization of all. This whole journey, it was never really about leaving that other person behind. It was always about finally coming home and meeting yourself, maybe for the very first time.
So let's end on this thought. This process isn't about fixing something that was broken. It's about remembering a strength that was always there, just waiting for you to reclaim it. It's an invitation to your own hero's journey.